Well, Candace, just like all of the people on the horseshoe right, have now finally kissed to the left, I guess. The horseshoe coming all the way around. She now apparently loves the Islamists, Muslims, and so does Tucker, and so does Nick Fuentes, so to speak, and all these other people that are just all of a sudden having found new affections for the Islamists and the left. Apparently, according to Nick Fuentes, he wants to vote Democrat or be Democrat or something along those lines. It's amazing how when you go so far to one side, you end up in another side, and you're no longer a conservative or on the right if you follow those kinds of people, because they no longer themselves are. This and more on The Ripple Effect. Welcome, because here we talk about every headline that we find important, or I find important, and try to show you the impact in your life and in your family's life, and instead how you can be the impact in your own life to the world around you. Let's get into it. So first off, the clips are making the rounds right now of Candace and Tucker and Megyn Kelly and Nick Fuentes and all these other people and everything that they say about all these lefty policies, and especially the Islamist one. Now, I will say one thing for Nick Fuentes. I don't believe he's in the group on this particular topic of that, because he's very much anti-immigration of any kind, period. So he's definitely not per se in that. But these clips from even just January of Megyn Kelly, January of this year, talking about Islamists and how if you basically don't want your women to be horribly abused and everything else, you shouldn't be supportive of Muslims. To now where she's finding some kind of somehow new healthy relationship with the Muslims, and I just don't understand why. I just never realized it was the Jews the entire time. Yeah, not super impressive. And then Candace Owens, too. And here's the funny part I have for Miss Candace, who is supposed to be so Catholic. I mean, so Catholic. For those of you, the Catholics out there, you know I'm not a super big fan. But I do have one question for you. After fighting for something like 2,500 years of, not 2,500, what am I saying? Would be since the Middle Ages. So hundreds and hundreds of years. So yeah, I pulled a Candace there. But there's been hundreds of years of Catholic and Muslim fighting. All of a sudden, are you guys super big friends? What's funny is, I will say, for all the mistakes that Michael Knowles does, that's not one of them, because he's so religiously Catholic that he understands you cannot be friends with the Muslims. Muslim people do not understand opposition. They only understand dominance. And they will take over, and they are taking over our country right now. You can see it spreading and spreading and spreading. And so it is a little interesting that all these people on the horseshoe right that are now on the left, like fully coming out and being on the left, have found a brand new respect for Muslims and Muslim culture almost around the same time. For people that call out the conservatives and anyone who disagrees with them, especially about Israel, as being bought out by the $5,000, maybe they're being bought out by the Muslims. At least there's, allegedly. I have no idea, because I'm sure we'll never find out financially what's happening. But it does seem a little confusing and a little odd that that's the case. Now, Candace Owens is going into some major troubles right now, because Candace Owens is getting shellacked for all of her words. They're finally coming back to haunt her. She's getting nailed with lawsuits, just like Alex Jones was nailed with lawsuits and finally has lost InfoWars. And we're finding out that her husband is getting in some pretty major trouble, apparently. But the lies are beginning to catch up. Just like we said before, and I forget who it was that pointed this out. Oh, who was it? Maybe it was Jeremy Boring. But he pointed out that you can only go so crazy until, one, it starts to bite you, legally speaking, and two, you begin to start shaving off how much of your audience is actually listening, because they go, oh, that's too crazy for me. Oh, that's too crazy for me, and they begin to drop out. And at some point, Candace will be a thing of the past. So will Tucker Carlson, so will Nick Fuentes, so will Megyn Kelly. And they're on their way out. You know why? Because truth will always prevail. And it's amazing that even though these people claim to know the truth or speak for the truth and even be the truth arbiters. They really are not. Now, there are several other things that I wanted to get into. One is things in California that are heating up really, really crazy. And if you want to watch some entertaining stuff, see some of the debate highlights from the debates that are going on. And, man, I forget what her name is, but the woman that is running for governor, that's like the premier woman. Let me see. But she's the front runner for the Democratic side. There we go, governor of California. But she's the front runner for the Democratic side, and she is nuts. I mean, she's a horrible, horrible person. And what was funny is they had like this section of the debate where they were getting a little aggressive, and Chad Bianco, who's the sheriff, he posted something afterwards and was talking about how Katie Porter, that's her name, Katie Porter, and how they had like a spicy moment of meanness back and forth. And he said, wow, I'm glad I escaped out of there without getting mashed potatoes thrown on me. And apparently that was a thing where she did to her husband. I don't know if it's ex-husband or husband, but where she threw scalding hot potatoes that she was making at him because she was angry at him. So that's great, and got him some severe burns. So really, 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 really great stuff. And just a nasty, nasty person. Apparently she had one of her children taken from her. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's just not a great person. Let's just put it that. So finally, it seems like the Republicans have smartened up and are no longer going after each other as much as they're going after the Democrats, which I'm very excited to see. I called that out a long time ago. But Mayor of LA. So Spencer, I think it's Spencer Pratt. Oh, why am I forgetting names today? It's been a long week. It's been such a long week. It's why I didn't have a show on Tuesday, because I had a pipe burst underneath the house and I had to get underneath there, and there's only like this much room, so you had to crawl down there. And then I was trying to do the soldering of the pipe together, and that was not working very well for me. I ended up getting a new technology, but I was very, very tired. So as you can imagine, I did not have a show. Now, Mayor of LA, the candidates are getting spicy. There's two Democrats and one Republican. And they're getting quite interesting because all of the decisions that these lefties are doing are quite astonishing. And what's crazy is, I will say this for the guy who's running for mayor of LA. Usually, people we run are not always the best, especially in California. I don't know why. But Karen Bass was just getting it handed to her by this guy. And again, I think it's Spencer. I'm going to type this in real quick. I'll skip this in post. Okay. So it is Spencer Pratt. Now, he has been hitting them. Now, the funny part is he's a reality TV star, apparently, but he has been hitting them over and over and over again. And the problem is the Democrats have been running stuff for so long. There's such a plethora of things to go after them for. And he's pulling out statistics, and he's nailing them down on everything. They had something like 3,000 beds. Follow me here. 3,000 beds for people to stay in. It cost $400 million. $400 million. And Spencer, he points out the very, very, very important fact that this is not an issue of homelessness. And they call it that, but it's not the issue of homelessness in California, but rather of addiction. Addiction in California. And if you can fix the addiction, it fixes a lot of the major problems that we're dealing with. Now, I wanted to end with something different. This is a total side note. And I want to ask, what in the tarnation the people on ICE think they're doing? The story is that ICE agents boarded and stormed a Disney cruise docking in California and arrested multiple staff in front of the passengers. Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what? This is what I'm going to say about conservatives. We call out people on our side when they're doing something wrong. And you, ICE agents that did that, are stupid, dumb, and asinine. You're like, but we're just doing our job. They're just doing their job. Caleb, don't go after them for doing their job. There are a lot of horrible illegal aliens out there. I don't need you to pick the chef off of the Disney cruise. Okay? You following me here? Here's someone who's being at least productive in society. And on the cruise and in front of a Disney cruise, children. And here comes ICE storming the Disney cruise to yank off the chef who was still wearing chef uniform. You failed. Because this is a matter of visuals. Not just doing the right thing, but of visually doing the right thing as well. And you failed. You're stupid. You don't do things like this. I'm more mad at you because you're on our side. Not ICE. ICE, I understand, is an agency and it does its own thing, blah, 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 blah. I get that. But we support you doing your job because we're conservatives and we believe in a border. We believe in laws and rules. But I expect you to have some kind of intelligence when you do your job. Whoever the person was in charge of that, and if I had their name, I would plaster it everywhere because they need to have their hands slapped, not doxxed, not punished in the liberal form of way, but hands slapped by his upper ups and said, "What were you thinking? What were you thinking? To go on a Disney cruise while passengers are on board and yank off the chef." Again, is it illegal to do? No. But maybe round up all the other bad guys first and then come for the ones that are making food and things like that. And I'm reminded of the fact that when they were doing that whole raid thing in Minnesota, that the ICE agents, soon to be called NICE agents, went to a local Mexican restaurant, had lunch, and then rounded up all the people there. Don't be foolish. Do your job and do it right. There are no other options. There's not, because the left will never support you, never financially pay for you. But we will, but do it right. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you have a differing opinion, please put it down here. If you disagree with my approach on ICE, put it down there and tell me why. Tell me why we should be treating people differently than what I'm just saying. I'm interested to hear it. And if you have any little more information on even Spencer Pratt, Karen Bass, or Katie Porter, and all the other ones that are running for governor, let me know. And I'm sure some people were watching who may like Candace. If you have facts, put them into the comments. But if you don't have facts, then don't. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.